طيب السلام عليكم. Today, inshallah, we will talk about cross matching, which is the last test considered as a compatibility test. So we have number of compatibility tests. Can you mention some of them, please? Give me example of compatibility test.
ABO typing.
ما أسمع.
ABO typing.
Just a second. So excellent. So we have ABO compatibility. We have the excellent. We have antibody screening test, and if it's positive, we have to do antibody identification. Okay. Then we have to do cross matching. So ABO, we will know that ABO antigen present on patient or donor cell. Then we consider also looking for the antigen. After that, for our patient, we have to see if patient, also for our donors, if they have antibodies or no. And we usually focus on a low antibodies, and we discuss why last time. If we recognize the presence of a low antibody, especially for our patient, okay, so for our donors, usually we discard the donation. But for our patient, if we know there are antibody by using the ABO screening test, we have to identify the specificity of this antibody by using antibody identification test. So if we find that this patient, for example, have anti-small c, how can this information help me to provide compatible blood for this particular patient? Try. Yes, Samira.
إني أعطيه blood ما عنده اللي هو الأنتيجين سي، عنده lack of antigen C small.
Excellent, Samira. Excellent. Okay, excellent also, Samira. Right. So we have, for example, if this patient is so if it's, for example, A positive, this patient is A positive and also contain anti-small c, like the previous example. So we have to provide this patient, for example, with compatible blood, either A positive. This is first choice. Second choice will be what? We don't have A positive. What we can choose? What compatible blood? O positive. No need for negative. Okay, because the positive and negative is related to the. So here is positive. Okay, so there are no need to waste our negative for this patient because this patient is positive. Okay, so we can provide this patient with O because, as we discussed before, O is also compatible. Okay, so compatible not means identical type. Okay, but it is compatible, so we don't expect hemolytic transfusion reaction as a result of the transfusion. Okay, so also we can provide this patient with A positive as the first choice. Second choice is O positive also, but at the same time, as you say, it have to lack the small c antigen. Okay. So if we open the inventory, okay, شفنا الانفنتوري تبعنا ولقينا فيه, for example, A positive. Okay, so we have to see if this donor have C or not. So if it's not have the C, that means it's good. So at this time, I will take this donation, but I will not issue it directly. I have to do cross-matching. So what does cross-matching mean? So I choose this unit, but before I issue the blood, tell them this is a compatible blood, I have to do last step, which is cross-matching step. Yes, Nora.
أشوف التفاعل بين البلاد حق الدونر والبلازما حقت البيشنت.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, and excellent. يا شيماء, Sarah, and Hadid. Okay. We want to see if the patient, okay, have a low antibody against donor cell. Okay, so here I will use red blood, and here I will use the plasma. Okay, so do you think after all of the tests that we do before that we have and we do the cross matching, we will get positive result, which is mean agglutination? Or do you think it will be zero, so homogeneous? What do you think? What do you think? It will be there. We expect to detect agglutination, or it will be homogeneous? Yes, excellent, Jane. Okay, and all of you, that we expect them to be homogeneous. Okay, but as a confirmatory test, we have to do الكروس matching. Okay, so usually cross matching يكون عندنا homogeneous، لأن ما وصلنا مرحلة الكروس matching إلا وإحنا متأكدين من كل شيء. Okay, so this is the final check step. So today, inshallah, we will talk about routine cross matching. We will talk about electronic cross matching. What does this mean? We will talk about product, how we select the platelets, for example, or how to select the plasma for our patient. Okay, so alhamdulillah, we almost finished. By finish of today, we finish all the compatibility test, we finish the processing, we finish all the routine tests related to transfusion. Okay, inshallah بنكون غطينا البيزك بإذن الله. So next week, inshallah, so tomorrow we will have a cross matching. Also, we will have a discussion session. Okay, and next week يكون عندنا pregnant women, how to deal with the pregnant women. So it's quite different topic. And finally, we will talk, it will be one day we will talk about quality control. Okay, we will talk about accreditation, we will talk about all of this stuff. And the second day بيكون الريفيجن day. Okay, so مو الأسبوع الجاي اللي بعده. Okay, بيكون خلاص بنخلص بإذن الله. يوم بيكون زي ما قلنا عن الكواليتي وعن الاكريديتيشن، واليوم الثاني بيكون revision. If you want to see something, if you يعني want anything, we can do virtual class to discuss your questions. Okay, so the week after there is no need to come. Okay. So والله ما ادري صار عندنا. Okay. So let's talk about cross matching. Okay, so cross matching, as you said, it's patient serum plus donor RBC. Okay, so we call this is in particular called major cross matching. Okay, so in cross matching, we test the patient serum against donor cell. Okay, so can you remember that in 90s, Landsteiner find the ABO group. إذا تذكرون كان أن في هذا العام عرفوا أن في there are antigen expressed on the blood cell, so they start to distinguish representative of A and B and O, which was 0 before. Okay, and they recognize that it should be compatible. If there are no compatibility between patient and donor, okay, the patient will die. Okay. After several years, they will start to do a major cross matching and also minor cross matching. What do you think? What's minor cross matching mean?
RH. RH.
RH لا. No. So here we use patient serum, isn't it? And we cross matching with donor RBC, isn't it? However, in minor cross matching, we also cross match. Yes, excellent. The donor serum. Okay, this time is donor serum against patient RBC. Okay, so both of them was they did it at the same time. Okay, at 1950s, اوكي they start to الانتي screening. بدأوا يلاحظون انه لا، في والله حتى لو كان الاي بي او compatible في شيء ممكن يسبب لي hemolytic transfusion reaction. So they recognize that some patient may have antibodies. So antibody secretion is start at this time. تخيلوا من هذاك الوقت بدأوا الانتيبودي سكرينينج. اوكي طبعا وجود الحرب العالمية الأولى والثانية ساعدت كثير في تطور علم. Okay, so in this year they start to recognize that minor cross-matching is not important. Okay, minor cross-matching is not important. Okay, so so for example here immediate spin cross-matching, here computer cross-matching. Okay, and today inshallah we will understand what is computer cross-matching mean. And sometimes no cross-matching at all. What is the condition we will discuss inshallah today? What's the condition that we do transfusion without cross-matching? Okay. So we understand what is cross-matching mean, which is major cross-matching. Okay. If I want to do cross-matching, as we discussed before, we need patient, we need donor cell, isn't it? You think? So we can see here, this figure show a blood unit. Okay, do you think if I need donor cell, what can I do? Can I open a little bit the bag and take sample from here? Or what do you think? Central, we don't do that. Yes, Ashwag, why? Why we shouldn't do that? We don't have this, the patient, the donor serum. A donor, sorry, donor edits a blood, for example. Okay, we keep it for only 1 week after donation. Then we don't keep it anymore. Okay, so we will not find the donor unit, donor editor. وش نسوي؟ نورا زين انا بركه جت برا بعد الكلمه مره ثانيه يجي لا. So we don't open it, okay, as Uhud said, because we want to avoid contamination, because remember, transfer blood from vein to vein, so it's a closed system. Okay, so we never ever open it. Okay, can you notice something here? Let's change the color. Can you notice here something? This is called segment. Okay, during processing a blood unit, so this is blood unit, there are tube, long tube. Okay, long tube, we don't cut it from here, no, we keep it. Okay, and we make segment, heat sealing. Okay, with a small segment contain the ID of the donation. Each segment contains the ID. Okay, so we don't cut off the line here, so we make segment from them. Okay, can you not see it? انتبهتوا له? Yes. Okay, so we don't open, as Ashwag asked us to increase the stage of blood. Yes, because we don't want to open the system at all. We don't want to allow for any bacteria to come inside. Okay, so we just use a segment. Okay, so we will take a segment which contain the blood and use it. Okay, we have usually number of segments. Each unit contain number of segments attached to it. Okay, so once we need تشوفونهم بس يقطعونها كذا ويفتحونها يقصونها. Okay, ويستخدمون البلد اللي فيها. Okay, so blood from segment. Okay, clear? طيب. So compatibility means, as we discussed, it should be compatible. So there are no antibody in patient will destroy the donor cell. Okay, for example, in A, so A patient, okay, we can transfer him for O, isn't it? It's compatible. It's not identical, but it's compatible. Okay, because the patient, so this is from O positive, for example, so the patient don't have antibody against antigen here. So we consider the unit as compatible. Usually, we're looking at the first choice is from the same type. Okay, so if a B, I'm looking B positive, I'm looking for B positive donor. It's O positive, I'm looking, the first choice is O positive. But if I cannot find, I can go to the second choice, for example, and use O to give patients from B type. Okay. So when we need to do cross matching, usually we need to do cross matching before transfusion. Okay, so maybe they call us before 24 hours, for example. Okay, or even before. Okay, and ask us to prepare, for example, 3 units for this particular patient because maybe there are surgery will happen on that day. Okay, so before transfusion we can start doing الكروس ماتشنج. الاي بي او تايبنج من زمان مسوينها اوكي قبل كم يوم اتس اوكي تكون عندي في الريكورد كمان. انتي بودي سكرينينج also we try to do it several days just before transfusion. Okay. طيب سؤال if I have a patient okay فتحت الريكورد تبع this patient and I see that they do antibody screening from 2 years ago. Do you think it's enough or I have to repeat the antibody screening? So ABO, I have to repeat it each time. Each time need transfusion, I have to do it. Like an antibody screening. Excellent. What may happen during these 2 years? ايش تتوقعون؟ Transfusion?
sensitization.
Excellent. So during this time, maybe this particular patient produce antibodies, isn't it? Okay. So usually cross-matching should be not from long time before transfusion. So not before 1 month or 2 months. It's just it should be just before transfusion, short time before transfusion. Okay. So again, cross-matching, I can prepare a unit. Okay. So I take it out from the مثلا احنا الحين في البنك وجانا ريكوست وقال ان البيشنت احمد عنده عمليه بعد زي ما قلنا 3 ايام. احمد needs 3 blood units. Ahmed is from A positive, for example. Okay, and Ahmed have anti-Daffy A. So I have to find A positive. Okay, then try to find A positive lacking Daffy A, for example. Then do cross matching. Okay, so with cross matching, وأشوف. So if the unit is compatible and I do the cross matching, it's homogeneous. So that means it's compatible, isn't it? So now I can keep it at different sites. خليه على جنب. بعد يوم أو يومين ما تجي تطلبوه أعطيه أكون حجزت له حجزت الدم هذا له. اوكي ما يجي أحد ياخذه مرة ثانية فنحط عليه بنشوف الحين today how we will discuss a tag. Okay, so this particular unit should go to this particular patient. ما يجي أحد ثاني من الستاف ياخذها للبيشنت مختلف. طيب الكروس ماتشنج it should especially for patient with a low antibody. Yes, Sarah. We describe how to do. We mix donor cell with patient serum. This is the cross matching. Okay. So, okay, nothing. So for patient with a low antibody, we must do the indirect phase. Why we just don't do an immediate scan? What do you think? So patient with a low antibody, we have to do matching at indirect phase. This is a mandatory one. What do you think? Why? Excellent. Okay, because this patient is already have a low antibody, so maybe he produce another IgG antibody. So by immediate scan, I will not be able to detect. Okay, so I have to do an indirect phase. So the phase is depend on the patient condition. Okay, so yes, Sarah.
الاي جي ام حتى في الاي ات بيطلع ولا ما راح يطلع؟
أي
يعني
أحد
نسوي
عنده
اي
أنتي
اك
بودي
بس.
بديتكت. عادة ليش؟ أنا الاي جي ام يمسك أول ما أبدأ الرياكشن، عادة كوايت سترونج، فبيمسك معي حتى لو أنتم شفتوا إنه يمسك في البداية ويستمر معي حتى لما أوصل للإندايركت، حتى مع الانكيوبيشن عادة الاي جي ام يضعف ممكن لكن يظل موجود. Okay, so cross matching الphase is depend on the patient condition, which is quite different than screening and identification. If you remember, when we talk about identification and screening, we said the mandatory phase is an indirect phase, isn't it? However, here is quite different. So here is depend on the patient. So if the patient don't have any low antibody, okay, I can do it cross matching and immediate phase only. اوكي، هذه ستاندردز عندنا تقول اذا ما عنده اللو انتي بودي you can do an immediate spin only just to check the ABO compatibility, last checking for ABO compatibility. Okay, but patient, okay, for with low antibody we have to do an indirect phase. Okay, is it clear? So it's depend on the patient condition. What's the aim of each phase? As we said, the immediate span, the main aim of doing the immediate span is to detect the ABO incompatibility. Because if there are excellent, it's not any called antibody to be specific to detect the ABO compatibility. This is the main aim. Okay. طب ليش ممكن تصير في ABO incompatibility؟ أنا ما اخترتها إلا هو موجود هنا A وأنا متأكدة أن البيشنت عندي A واخترته، مش ممكن يكون عندي ABO incompatibility فجأة؟ إيش تتوقعون ممكن يصير؟ ممكن. إيش most common case mixed but maybe excellent لطيفة. تدرون أن هذا this is the reason, this is the main reason. Labeling error. So there are error in labeling. Okay. So but it's very very rare. Okay, however it may happen يعني. So if you know, we'll discuss it later inshallah when we talk about electron cross matching. So it may happen. Okay, the ABO incompatibility may happen mainly as a reason of labeling. However, this is very very rare. شاهد انت قاعده تشتغلين، اوكي، وعندك مثلا 2 يونتس بتشتغلين عليها، واحده انت عرفتي انها A وثانيه B، بدل ما تحطي ليبلنج الاي على الاي بالغلط حطيتيه على البي، ما انتبهتي، ما كنتي اوكي، هذا الليبلنج ايرور. واني ما عرفت احدد النوع، انا عارفه احدد النوع، لكن هو الاشكاليه صارت عندي لما جيت اسوي ليبلنج احط الستيكر. اوكي طيب so we understand the main aim of immediate spin and the main aim of indirect phase is to detect a low antibody from patient, warm antibody from patient against donor cell. اوكي طبعا المفروض انا عرفتها من قبل في السكرينينج، المفروض انا انتبهت له في الايدنتيفيكيشن اكيد مره ثانيه، وبعدين حددت وبعدين اعطيت كومباتبل بلاد، لكن مره اخيره نتاكد انه بالفعل compatible. Okay, so if there are IgG incompatibility, we'll be detect them at the indirect phase. Okay, so we discuss when to use them. Okay, so depending, as we said, on the donor, depending on the patient situation. Okay. إذا عنده it's a sensitized patient or don't have low antibody. Let's move. So importance of cross matching. As we said, we have to do an immediate span, okay, to detect the ABO compatibility. This is the last check. Okay. An indirect phase, we do it for patient with a low antibody, okay, usually from IgG, which is the clinically significant. Okay. So we do this phase to detect the presence of this antibody. Okay. So if we do ABO, all of the steps, we detect ان الدونر cells is compatible with patient serum, isn't it? وبالفعل هذا اللي شايفينه قاعد يصير. Around 100%, okay, compatible. So some people, okay, argue against that. إنه خلاص احنا مطمئنين وان احنا سوينا ال ABO phenotyping and direct to indirect and we do screening and if it's positive we do identification. Why we need to do cross matching? Okay. So some people said there are no need for cross matching and they start to do electron cross matching and we will do it. However, other people said no, it's still important. Okay, it is still important. Why? Why they said it's still important? Because they said it may be sampling error, it may be labeling error. Okay, so this is may happen. So when I will be able to detect that, I will able to detect that by an immediate spin cross matching, isn't it? Okay, and also maybe yes, I do a screening, I do identification, but maybe IgG antibody I missed them. Okay, لسه في ممكن I missed them. So maybe this is the last chance to detect that. Okay. Let's see now how to select. So some people argue with, some people argue against, and we will see these people what they do and other people what they do. When we discuss electronic cross matching. Yep. So cross matching usually we must do cross matching سواء كان serological cross matching or electronic cross matching when we want to transfuse packed RBC. Okay, so we know that whole blood unit can be separated or usually separated into three main components: packed RBC, plasma, and platelets. Okay, and from plasma we can prepare cryoprecipitate. But if you want to do, which is the most common type, additive transfusion, دائما most frequently RBC transfusion أكثر من البليتلتس وأكثر من البلازما. Okay, we have to do a cross matching. Okay, so usually for cross matching, as we said, so we have, for example, patient from A type, okay, and need packed RBC transfusion. The most acceptable type is to use the same ABO. So from A, I have, as we said before, use A. Okay, as positive, it's really positive. Okay, طيب لو كان let's see this لا بعدين نشوف. طيب when the blood and blood component of the patient type and available زي ما قلنا we have a second choice, for example give A to give all blood to A and we discuss that. Okay, so if I transfer A with A, for example, or with O, this will ensure longer survival. Okay, so I want donor cell to stay for a long time in patient. ما ابغى اعطيها البيشنت بعدين يصير لها destruction, isn't it? We don't want that. And لما يصير في hemolysis, okay, first things the hemoglobin will be dropped again. And the second things, what's the problem? What will happen if the red blood cell lyses? Right. When we do this release, excellent. Okay, so hemoglobin will be dropped. So one of yes, all of these is right. Also, yes, Sarah, the iron will be high. The free hemoglobin, which is a very important problem. Okay, so free hemoglobin, yes, I'm fine. So free hemoglobin is toxic. Okay, so usually لما يبدأ يصير عندنا ABO مثلا we detect ABO compatibility. First يعني investigation do be looking for the kidney function. Okay, so it may affect the kidney, cause kidney failure. So here we already know compatible blood. Okay, so we can see here O donor it's the universal donor. Okay, so can give to all blood units. The ABO recipient, we got universal recipient. Okay, can you see how many lines go inside it? So can take from O, A, B, A, B. Okay, so we understand this. Let's talk now about D. Okay, so usually, for example, it's B positive, I have to give B positive. It's B negative, it should be B negative. What will happen? Okay, Marine, are you here? What will happen? Okay, if I give, this is patient, I give him for first time B positive. Marine, excellent. First time sensitization. Excellent. First time sensitization will happen. So this patient may produce anti-B, isn't it? طيب, excellent. Second time. Nada, are you here? So second time, if I continue give B positive, what will happen? Hmm. Asma, sorry. It's Nada. Dr. Nada's here. Yes, excellent hemolytic reaction. The anti-D will bind to the donor cell, isn't it? Okay, so in spleen, it will be removed from the circulation. It's not Nada. Okay, طيب. What will happen? Okay, this is different scenario. If we give, this is patient and give him B negative. أسمع إيش بيصير عندي أسمع مطير. What will happen if I give a patient B negative? What will happen to the patient?
بس هو في بوزيتيف صح؟
الدونر البيشنت بي بوزيتيف ايوه اعطينا بي نيجاتيف.
ما راح يصير شيء لأن مع البيشنت نفسها ما عندها الدونر ما عنده نفس أنتي.
صح اكسلنت، احنا اصلا قاعدين نستخدم الباكت ار بي سي حقتها اكسلنت. اوكي سو ما عندنا اي اشكاليه. اوكي طيب اكسلنت. طيب احنا عاده ما نسوي الحركه هذه ليش؟ because صح انها ما راح تاثر. we know that it will not negatively affect my patient which is good, but however we don't do that. Why? Because we want to keep it for patient from being negative. اوكي اليوم اعطيت اياه، بكره جاني بي نيجاتيف، افتح الثلاجه الاقيها خلصت. نخلصها واعطيناها واحد امس، ليش تعطونا واحد امس ومحتاجها؟ ممكن احنا so we have to keep it usually. Okay, so we have to manage our inventory in a good way, so usually we don't do that. طيب excellent excellent. اسمه طيب sometimes we don't have enough D negative. Okay, we don't have the negative. Okay, so we will for example we will have number of scenario now and we to solve a problem. We have okay female, okay, she's 7 years, she need be negative. Okay, and we have okay for example 14 years healthy patient. Okay, so he just have bleeding. Okay, جاء عندنا مجروح ونزف عندي for example and he is from the negative. I just have, so both of them really need blood, so I have to give them blood. And in the inventory I have only one B negative and also I have one of B positive. Which one have the priority to have the B negative? مش رايكم؟ Excellent. Why? Why you choose that? You give it to the female. Do you think because we are female also? نجي الرجال زعلان يقول ليش؟ بس عشانها بنت؟ بنرد عليه. أسمع. What do you think? We have two patients. Both of them need blood. Okay, both of them are negative. In my inventory, I have only one excellent here. I have only one. So I have to choose now. حطوك لو يلا اختاري بتعطيني النيجاتيف للميل okay or the female. So excellent adherent they said I have to give it to the female. Why I have to give it to female? Because the female maybe become pregnant child later. Okay, so if she have anti-D, that will cause complication to her. Okay. However, المale في السيناريو عندنا قلنا it's quite healthy, it may injury يعني بس bleeding, so need blood, so we don't expect this patient to need blood again and again. So for this time, I will give him B positive. Okay. Do you understand? So the female have a higher priority. Okay. اضطرينا نختار بين التايب. يلا next scenario. Another scenario. طيب we have two male. Okay, so we have two male. One of them is 80 and the other one is 24. Just a second. Okay, so we have these two. Both of them again be negative, and you will have only one be negative blood. So which one of them have priority to have it be negative and why? طيب شهد Aisha choose 24 which is the correct answer. Can you explain? Yes, Hadil, mashallah, Hadil give us the explanation. So we have to give to 24 patients, the 24 years patient. Why? The immunity in this patient is higher compared with the other one. Okay, more producing an antibody is part of the immune system, isn't it? The immune system in elderly people, unfortunately, it's go down. Okay, so this patient may not sensitize. اصلا المناعه عندها ضعيفه شوي. Okay, ممكن احنا نعطيه البي بوزيتيف والاميون سيستم ولا كانه شايفها. So it will not produce an anti-D, for example. However, this is possibility. However, the possibility to produce an anti-D in 24 years patient is higher because the immunity is stronger. Okay, so the immunity is stronger. You understand it? Yes, Shema. طيب male yes طبعا. Okay, طيب. Let's see another scenario. Okay, so we have again here male. Okay, so this is 30, for example, this is 25, and both of them are a negative. Okay, so again we have only one. However, here this patient is a sickle cell patient. So here this patient is sickle cell patient. However, here the other patient is needed because he, for example, bleeding again. Okay. So he have surgery and bleeding during the surgery, so need blood. So which one have the priority to have an A negative? Excellent. This one, because this is transfusion dependent. And if you remember, we said in transfusion dependent patient, if it's sickle cell, if it's a patient or whatever kind of patient, but we know this patient it will depend on transfusion the rest of his life or for a long time. We have to be very careful when we deal with them. drugs, and we don't want to sensitize them as much as we can. So in this type of people, we not only do ABO and D-typing, but also we do extend phenotyping. So we're also looking for a big K. So start to matching other antigens. Try to matching the K, try to matching the DAF, try to matching الكاد, other principal antigens from RH, C, E. Okay, so we try as much as we can to provide them with compatible blood. We don't want to synthesize them, as we will see today, inshallah. Number of antibodies produced make finding compatible blood very hard. Okay, so patients with no antibody, it's very easy to provide them with compatible blood. However, people with one low antibody is quite hard to find compatible blood for them. People with too much low antibody, it's very difficult. Okay. So we understand the priority now. So let's move to another point. We know that weak D is, for example, here considered as positive. Okay, طبعا normal. البارشال نعتبره what? We consider partial is D positive for patient. And we consider them as D positive or consider them as negative. الweak positive. Okay, usually weak is positive, considered as positive. Okay, I don't want to discuss I don't want to discuss the partial D. Okay, I don't want to discuss because it's very rare. Okay, and I want to focus on the beats only. Okay, so D negative, people who don't have, in case of shorter supply, we discussed number of scenarios. Okay, so we understand that concept. أثير صح عليك. طيب. Cross matching for patients with low antibody. Okay, let's back to cross matching. Okay, so give antigen lacking red blood cells. We understand this point. So if the patient have anti-BK, for example, and he from B positive, we have to provide this particular patient with donor with B positive and also lack BK antigen. We will see now how can we estimate number of units to be tested. Okay, very important point to know that. Can you remember when we said that we have just to take a segment from donor and open the whole unit? We just take a segment. Okay, so again, when we do cross matching, we will take a segment and return back the unit to the refrigerator. We don't keep it on the bench. What do you think? ليش ما نخليه على البنش وقت العادي؟ Why we have to return it back? So I will take a segment and return it. Why I don't keep it? So I will take a segment to do a compatibility test, cross matching, okay? But why I don't keep it in blood unit for a long time on the bench? إذا واحد مثلا زميلتك طلعت بلاد يونت وحطتها جنبها وقاعدة تشتغل نص ساعة ساعة ويسوي cross matching. طبعا excellent. So if it stay long time on the temperature حقها go up, isn't it? So it's because it will go up, there are chance of contamination. Okay, and we don't want that because it become a little bit warm, isn't it? ترفع حرارتها من 4 تبدأ تاخذ ال room temperature. Okay, so it's chance of increase the risk of contamination, bacterial contamination. So we don't want that. So we have to keep just take it and return. Okay, جاء واحد طيب قال لك واحد والله ترى صعب اني القى، خليني اسهل لي احطها قدامي كلهم. احيانا يقول انا بس بسوي كروس ماتش بوحده، ممكن مو بوحده، ممكن انت تحتاج مو بس يونت تسوي لها كروس ماتش، ممكن انت تحتاج 3 4 5 6 10 مرات تجرب 10 different units عشان تلقى one compatible unit particular patient. طب انا كيف اعرف اني هل انا احتاج اسوي كروس ماتشنج اليونت واحده ولا لازم اختار 4 5 6 units to find only one compatible unit? Sometimes I have to looking for 20 donors just to find one compatible blood. Okay. Patient يبغى 1 unit. اوكي اطلع له 20 سيجمنت من 20 دونر واجرب كل مره. طبعا مين هم هذول البيشنت اللي كذا يتعبونا؟
اللي عندهم low antibody.
Excellent. اللي عندهم low antibody. Okay. Especially as Nora said, patients with multiple antibody. Okay. You have to know how much of units I need to find, okay, to do a testing, okay, to do a cross matching. In order to know that, we can do some calculation, okay, and we will see this calculation now. Okay, so we have here example. So I have to know, for example, if a patient have anti-BK, I have to know how many patients lack this antigen. How many patients don't have this particular antigen? Then do calculation. Okay. So this case, in order to do an estimation, I have to know the frequency of antigen in my population. لازم أنا أعرف in my population how many people carry D, how many people carry C, how many people the frequency of different antigen. Okay, so let's see this example now and do it together. So patient, okay, for example, from A type, produce multiple antibodies. Okay, so we found anti-Big C, this patient. We have also anti-E and also anti-Big C. Oh, anti-Big C. So this patient has different antibodies, isn't it? So I have to provide this patient with a unit, but lacking the Big C, lacking the E, lacking Big S antigen. Okay. In order to know that, I have to know the percentage of donors lacking this antigen. اوكي ابي اعرف كم الناس اللي ما عندهم البيك سي، كم الناس اللي ما عندهم الاي وكم الناس اللي ما عندهم اس. So, for example, here they tell me that 68 the population carry big C. So I want to know how many of them lacking this C. So it's very easy. I will submit 68 from 100. So 52 from my population don't carry the antigen. Okay, then divided by 100. So I want to know the frequency of them. Okay. So, and let's see how many people lacking in E. So I know that around 29% having E. So how many of them don't have it E? عندي تقريبا كم؟ Around 71. Okay, so multiply by divided by 100. Okay, so I get this percent. No, لطيفة. We're talking about antigen. 29% عندهم الاي. انا ابغى اعرف اللي ما عندهم الاي، هم اللي ابيهم صح؟ انا ابغى اعرف اللي ما عندهم، لان ايش المشكله؟ البيشنت عنده انتي اي وعنده انتي سي وعنده انتي اس. فانا ابي اشوف كم البوبيوليشن اللي ما عندهم هذه الانتيجين. بالنسبه للسي لقينا 32 ما عندهم السي. بالنسبه للاي لقينا 71. هذه الاحصائيات من وين تجي؟ The question Sarah, this is from study research. We will discuss some research just dead and Saudi population. خلاص هم اللي يعلموني اخذ منها الاحصائيات. ممكن تنطبع تتعلق بالمعمل ايه، تنطبع الفريكونسيز في السيستم population بعدين تتعلق في المعمل، فلما تشتغلي انت عارفه تقدرين تنحلي. Okay, let's see here the S. So we know that around half of my population lacking this antigen. Okay, which is good. يعني مثلا الاي ما راح يسبب لي اشكاليه كبيره اذا كان عنده اي انتي اي، لان الغالبيه تقريبا 70% ما عندهم اصلا الاي. طب let's see now what to do. خلاص عرفنا هذه. اوكي، الحين بنشوف ايش بنسوي بهذه المعلومات. So we want patients, we want donors lacking all these antigen. So we have to combine the frequency, okay, and multiplying the antigen negative frequencies. So here we multiplying by them. Okay, so it will give me a number. I will round it up. Okay, so which means around 11% of my population, okay, من ال A positive population, will lacking all of these antigen. Okay, so from 100 A positive كم بلقى عندي أتوقع بيكون عندي compatible unit. Excellent. بتوقع من كل 100 يونت أتوقع 11 تقريبا بلقاها lacking all of these antigens. Okay, is it clear? Now let's see. So this is the number I have here. It's 11%. That means is 11% of my population, okay, lacking the big C, lacking the E, lacking the S at the same time. من كل 100 من ال A، لو عندك 100 عينة A 100 يونت عندك، 11 منها بتكون ما عندها، بتكون من ال A وفي نفس الوقت ما عندها الانتيجين هذا، ما عندها لا ال C ولا ال E ولا ال S. Okay, do you understand الجميع؟ نشوف سارة. Okay, this patient required how many units? 2 units. So this patient required 2 units. طيب خلاص أنا عرفت الحين أن كل from each 100 I have, yes Latif, excellent, I have 11 people lacking all of these antigen. طيب I need only 2. So how many units I have to take it out from the inventory to do the cross matching? MashaAllah. Okay, let's see if it's correct. Ashwag says 18, so let's do it together. Okay, so هذا نسميه for example ال N. So 11N is equal to 200, then okay, بيطلع عندكم حسبتوها ال N is equal to, round it up usually. Okay, so it's around 18 units. So if this particular patient needs 2 units, so I have to take out 18 units. So I expect to find 2 of this 18 compatible. You understand it?
ممكن أسألك ال 200 من وين جت؟
من هنا ضربت وسطين في طرفين. Yes, repeat it. طيب مرة
شلون
ثانية.
آخذ 18 يونت وأنا ما قلت في البداية بس عندي 11.
طيب we will see it again. Okay. So we know that from this, okay, خليكم معي. We know from this point, okay, بعد ما سوينا calculation, that from each 100%, okay, so from each 100%, how many units lacking 3 antigen? 11, isn't it? خلاص متفقين الكل مستوعب النقطة هذه؟ من هنا حصلت على المعلومة، بعد ما ضربتهم كلهم في بعض طلع لي العدد round it up، اوكي، بعدين ضربته في 100 عشان اعرف النسبة. خلاص واضح إلى هنا؟ بنات واضح؟ you understand it؟
إي واضح إلى هنا.
أنا فهمت. هذه المعلومة وش تعلمني؟ هنا المعلومة تقول لي إن من كل 100 رياضيات عادي، من كل 100 فيهم 11 compatible. من كل 100 بلقى 11 lacking ال E والC والS. خلاص؟ طيب أنا ما أحتاج 11 يونت صح؟ السؤال قال لي نحتاج بس 2. أوكي؟ طيب إذا من كل 100 بلقى 11. طب إذا أنا أبغى بس 2 يونت، كم أحتاج أسوي كروس ماتشنج مع كم يونت؟ هذا هو المجهول عندي صح؟ أعطيك الرمز N. أوكي؟ وسطين في طرفين. أوكي بيكون عندي 11 N equal to 200. خلاص الجميع استوعب من وين جت ال 200؟ أوكي؟
إي واضح.
الحين أقسمها على 11 عشان أنا أبغى ال N بحالها. أوكي؟ طلع عندي قلت لي هنا الناتج is equal to 18. So N is 18. So I need 18. So I expect that if I was matching 18 unit from A type, I will find 2 of them compatible. You understand it? Okay. So if I need 2. بس الجميع وضح له؟
بس يعني مثلا لو أنا أبغى 11 يونت
طلع
آخذ
100.
100.
طلع 100 أسوي لك كروس ماتشنج، بس مين يحتاج 11؟
مثلا يعني بس آخذ 100.
عليك. يحتاج 3. خلاص إذا أنت عرفتي كيف تسوين كالكوليشن، يحتاج 3، يحتاج 1، يحتاج 6، يحتاج وات ايفر، تعرفين تطلعين كم. Okay. Like, do this exercise. You will have 5 minutes to do it. Okay. صفحة هات الدرسات. How many units? What now? Or still? طيب كده أفضل ولا ليزر يقطع؟ ما أعرف ليش هو يقطع ناس وناس لا. أفضل شوي. طيب إذا استمر بحاول أطلع مرة ثانية وأدخل وأشوف ليش غير عندي. طيب so back to the exercise. So if the patient have anti-DFA, anti-KID B, and also anti-BK, how many units should tested to find 2 units? So your answer is around 25 units. Okay. So from 25, 26. Okay, so something around that. Okay, for proteins. So you understand now how to estimate the number of compatible units. Okay, الأفضل round it up. Okay, so let's see here antigen frequency in Saudi Arabia. So because the antigen frequency is different depending on different population. So in Caucasian is different than in for example Chinese people is different than in black, and so it's quite important to know the frequency of different antigen at a certain population, okay, or at your population. So here we can see here the population of ABO type Okay, so this is from Shebani, 2015. So we can observe that much of us is from O type. However, we have the A will be. No, أشواط. لا. كده يعني. Okay, ممكن when you open the blood bank, you can print it out and use it. Okay, so it's around 85. Okay, big C, small c, so this is the frequency. Okay, so a big K, we can see it's 16, so we just published, or it will be published inshallah recently, this information. So we can see the small key and the E, it's too much on the population. So if you think, what do you think? If a patient have NT small e, it's easy to find compatible unit? What do you think? No, it's very hard. So from each 200, we will find only 3. Okay, so just imagine if the patient, for example, needs 2 units lacking the E, so it's really complicated. It will be really complicated case, or if a patient have small K. So it's very rare to find people have these. لان زي ما انتم شايفين اغلب الناس اصلا عندهم الانتيجين، قليل مره اصلا يطلعون الانتي اي او يطلعون الانتي سمول كي. Okay, so if you want to calculate the frequency, you have or the estimate units that you to do cross match, you have to know the frequency. Okay, so in case study 1 and case study 2, you can back and answer the questions. Can you remember there are some questions about asking about the frequency? So now, yeah, that's how to do it. I can remember that Sarah do it by herself, mashallah. Okay, so let's infants. Let's continue to talk about people or a special category of patients. So let's talk about infants. So for infants less than 4 months, the type of pre-transfusion test we have to do an ABO directly. We have to do reverse. عند الجميع. No, excellent. We don't do that because this may cause discrepancies for us. Okay, so antigen may be A, so we expect to have an anti-B, but we may miss it, isn't it? So this is what causes discrepancies. So usually for infants, we don't do a reverse. Okay, D typing also it's very important. Okay, to know if it's positive or negative. Okay, screening, we don't do a screening for them. However, sometimes it may give positive. So positive means there are antibodies, isn't it? So this antibody come from where? Do you think? Most probably this antibody that we found from where? Excellent. From mother. We know that IgG can at the same time circulate in baby circulation. Okay. So we can do cross matching based on ABO type. Okay. So sometimes we just look for that ABO and do immediate cross matching. Okay, so we do because we don't expect a baby to have IgG. Okay, sometimes, especially for infants or fetuses, we can use mother serum. Okay، ليش؟ لأن احنا خايفين أصلا من الأنتي بودي اللي كانت موجودة عند الأم. اوكي، فاحيانا نقول بدل ما ناخذ من البيبي نفسه ناخذ من الأم، لأن البيبي أصلا ما يطلع اي جي جي. احنا بنتوقع اي جي جي، ما راح يطلع اي جي جي، بيكون من الأم. ليش ما نرجع للمصدر الأساسي وناخذ أصلا من الأم ونسوي كروس ماتشنج للأم نفسها. اوكي. So cross matching in general, or full cross matching procedure, including cross matching or compatibility in general, needs, okay, so to be specific, we can call this compatibility. Plus cross matching, let's take around 45 minutes. okay, to complete. Okay, cross matching alone بتسوي الحالة also take around 45 minutes because we, especially if the patient, if we put at an indirect phase. Okay, because it's need incubation time, we need recording the result and all of these things. So we discussed that units should be just take a segment, then return it back. Okay, just take a segment, then return it back because we said keep it at the bench will increase the temperature of the unit, which will increase the possibility of contamination. A unit of blood must be properly labeled. Okay, and we will see the label of the information present on the label. Okay, and must be checked before use. أجل مو أخذ على عماي أنا لازم أشيك labeling. Okay, بنشوف المعلومات الموجودة عندي. So this is procedure. So we will do it. Uh, 37 we will do it immediate. Oh. ما أعرف سبب ضعف. الآن يقطع ولا أفضل؟ والآن طيب أنا مبسوطة. طيب لسه ما أعرفه. ما نس... طيب الحين رجع عندي يعطيني إياها إنها ممتازة. الآن ما أعرف. طيب والآن روح ترجع أيوة أشوفها. طيب يفترض الآن أفضل. تعدل الآن. طيب الحمد لله. So let's continue. Procedure we'll discuss it tomorrow inshallah. Okay, so no need to discuss it now. So result interpretation also tomorrow inshallah. Let's see now how or what type of unit we have to do cross matching part. So as we discussed, we have number of products RBC, plasma, صح؟ هذا اللي عندنا وعندنا platelets. Okay. So the main product need cross matching is, what do you think? We just say it at the beginning. Amjad, are you with us? Amjad, which one we have to cross match it? We said that at the beginning. Amjad, are you with us? So, as you said, yes, red blood cell. Okay, so this is the one. However, plasma and platelets, there are no need to do cross matching. No need. So if I need B positive plasma, I will open the inventory and take what have on it, and that's it. So there is no need to do cross match. Platelets again. If I need platelets, I will provide him with a patient platelets without the need to do cross matching. The RBC when they need. Okay, and in these cells, إذا ظهرت الإشارة ما أتكلم. الآن أفضل. طيب عموما إذا صار يقطع مرة ارجعوا للتسجيل الجزئية اللي راح فيها الصوت. لأن الوقت قاعد يمشي. طيب so الكروس ماتش we said it's RBC should be cross match. طيب in general if the unit is contaminated RBC we have to do cross match. Nowadays plasma it's pure plasma, platelets is not contaminated usually with RBC. Okay, so if the unit is heavily contaminated, we have to do cross matching. However, if it's not contaminated with RBC, okay, so this is the rule. Okay. Let's see now. Okay, so we have to do cross matching, so they should be AB on B. So plasma, let's talk about AB compatibility and D. Okay, so do you think plasma should be ABO compatible? So a patient need B, sorry, a patient need B, need to give B plasma? Is it okay? So if it's A, what type of plasma I can give him? Here in this example. So if a patient is A and this patient needs plasma, what type of plasma I can give him? مش رايكم؟ Excellent, Aisha, Lujain. I have to give him A plasma. Is it easy, isn't it? I can give him also AB. طيب, Rola, can you explain to me what will happen if I give this patient B plasma from B donor? So plasma from B donor contain what? Answer me, Rola. Yamira. Okay. So people from B contain anti-A, isn't it? What will happen? Test. Okay, so what will happen if I do that? I will kill my patient. Okay, if I give him plasma from now, we have to distinguish between RBC and plasma because it's different. Okay, it's different. So here we talk about plasma. So what will happen if I give plasma from O donor to A? Again, what happened? What type of antibody this donor have? Anti-A and anti-B, excellent. Anti-A, also anti-B. So again, I will kill him. So we shouldn't do that. It should be compatible. Okay, this is first choice, this is second choice. Excellent. And what about AB? What about D compatibility? So if it's B positive, it must be B positive. For example, if it's B negative, do you think I have or must provide him with? Excellent. There are no need for looking to the D. Why? Excellent. It's okay. It's okay. Even if it's negative, I provide him with plasma from B positive. Excellent. There are no, for example, anti-D. هننتهي منها ايش كمان؟ serum doesn't have ايش كمان because صح. Excellent. So we don't expect اصلا انه يطلعون انتي دي بينهم positive. Even we don't expect اصلا in general that this patient donor have any antibodies. Excellent. Okay, we don't expect them to have any antibodies. طيب, is it the antigen present free on the serum? هل تتوقعوا ان the antigen present free on the serum؟ No, excellent. موجود بس على ايش؟ only RBC. Excellent. Excellent. طيب البلازما ايش رايكم؟ البليتلت sorry. So platelets, do you think it should be ABO compatible? especially if it's not contaminated. There are no need to be ABO compatible, and of course there are no to be compatible. Okay, so B, I'm talking now about platelets. So B, I can provide him with platelets from A. It's okay. Okay, and usually, if you remember, if you want to prepare one therapeutic dose of platelets, sometimes we need to, or usually, especially if we prepare it from whole blood donation, how many donors we need? Around 4 to 6 donors. Okay, so it's okay to mix them together. Okay. طيب البليتلتس يعني usually or standard it's suspended on some plasma. Okay, it's however it's very small volume plasma. Okay, in some hospitals they replace plasma with additive solution. Okay, زي عندنا خالد عندنا still use suspended platelets in plasma. عندك الملك فيصل أكيد يتفخرون يقولون إحنا نستخدم additive solution. Okay. However, in both cases, there are no need to be ABO compatible. Okay, in normal cases. طيب, some patients عندهم platelets refractory. هل مرت عليكم هذه قبل؟ Platelets refractory. With platelets refractory, we provide the okay, 1 time, 2 times. There are no increase in the platelets count. So we provide them several times. We discuss refractory, platelets refractory that. So in platelets refractory, there are no increase in the platelets count. So we do platelets transfusion 1 time, we do platelets transfusion for 2nd time, and the number is not increased. Okay, so we have to measure platelets after transfusion. So some patients start still the increment or the number is not increased. Okay, so which is weird. So we expect when we give a platelets to increase the amount of platelets. However, in these circumstances, there are no increase in the increment. Okay. One reason is that there are antibody affected platelets. Okay, so there are antibody in patients affected platelets. This is one reason. There are other reasons, but one of them is related to antibody. تتوقعون antibody من أين؟ Is it platelet antibody? Is it HLA antibody? It's platelets antibody. عندما يسبب لي مشاكل platelets transfer بسبب الريفراكتوري. وجود الريد بلاد سيل انتي الاي بي او انتي بودي مثلا، ولا اتش ال اي انتي بودي، ولا platelets انتي بودي. Excellent, ما شاء الله, all of you, it's HLA antibody. Human leukocyte antigen is also expressed on platelets. So people with antibody anti-HLA, okay, they destroy platelets or prevent them from working on patients. Okay, so this is main code. Okay. So in this case, يلا وش توصياتكم؟ عندكم patient, there are no increase in the increment 1 time 2 time. Okay, so خلاص تم تصنيفه after 2 times, there are no increase in the increment. We can say this patient is. So we do investigation. We find that this patient have HLA antibody. So this is the reason why it's not increased. So what do you think? ما شاء الله. HLA compatibility, HLA matching, excellent هدية. Try. Do you think it's easy? Try it. No, excellent. It's not easy to find it. Okay, so sometimes they try to in these cases they try to do HLA match. Sometimes إذا كان سبب HLA, sometimes they try to do ABO matching. قالوا نعيدها مرة ثانية بس المرة نخليها matching. Okay, so this is sometimes help. لكن for normal cases, okay, it's okay to provide them with no ABO compatible. So here it's just يعني summary. Okay, so we can see here plasma, and platelets, all type is acceptable. With blood cell, this is from A. So you can read it later. طيب. طيب. So let's back. We just finished talk about the cross matching, okay, and how to select a compatible unit. What is the important phases in cross matching? Let's talk now about how to issuing the blood units. So when we choose a compatible unit, okay, so we decide that this patient is need B negative. Okay, so we will open the inventory, and as we said, we will choose the compatible unit, then do cross matching. So if it's homogeneous, that means it's good. Okay, so we choose this for this patient. Okay, negative. And if you remember, we said we have to keep this particular unit to particular patient in special or at refrigerator. Okay، بحيث ان اذا جو النيرس ياخذونها خلاص موجود عندي، يجيبون الريكوست يقولوا الان نحتاج سلموا لنا اليونت، عارفين مكانها في الثلاجه، نقول هذه مثلا لاحمد، هذه اللي احنا مجهزينها لاحمد. اوكي طيب. We have to put compatibility tag. Compatibility tag, we will see it. So in compatibility tag, it's like this one. Okay, so contain the information. So the label is contain the information of the donor, isn't it? So here contain information of the donor. However, in the tag, it's contain information of what? So blood unit is the donor. Tag, what? What do you think? Excellent, for patient, for the patient. Okay, so contain the information of the patient. So what kind of information should be in the on the compatibility tag? It should contain so here it should contain the name of the patient, okay, the number of the patient, the ID number of the patient, the ward, for example. Okay, so all of this information should be present on the tag. Okay, should be present on the tag. Then when the nurse come to do a transfusion, or a physician or whatever will do the transfusion, should check the information again. Okay, from the wristband of the donor, from the patient. Okay, so we have to check wristband, the information should be compatible. Okay، ما اساله، بعض الناس تجي تساله هو نايم، قوم انت احمد، لا ما اساله، يمكن هو يكون مو مركز، كيف ممكن يقول ايه نسوي ترانسفيوجن وبعدين ما يطلع احمد، نلقى احمد في الغرفه اللي جنبها. Okay, so this is sometimes the reason for ABO incompatibility. وش المشكلة أصلا مو هو بالبيشنت اللي نبغاه، بيكون عندنا هنا المشكلة من النيرس نفسها. She to check or she have to check. Okay, don't ask the patient, check from the wrist. أحمد إيه والله أحمد، هذا بالفعل هذا الورد تبع إيه، بالفعل هذا الآي دي تبع أيوه، خلاص أنا كذا متأكد أحمد. Then start transfusion. Okay, طيب let's check here the so we talk about the patient. So let's talk now about the component. So we said the patient need the name, need the ID, need the word, for example, maybe also date of birth. بالنسبة للcomponents, the important details طبعا should be the ABO group, ABO1D group. Okay, the expiration date, Okay, a special ID or donation number, the project itself. Okay, so this is the most important things to present on the benefits. Also, if there are special tests, okay, sometimes test غالبا, so there are mandatory, like checking the viruses, different kinds of viruses, for example, syphilis or whatever. However, there are some special tests. Okay, so for example, it can do a hemoglobin shake عليه. ممكن, so this is not mandatory. So maybe check the CMV virus, and this is not mandatory. But radiation, so maybe the product is irradiated or not, so it should be present. If it's irradiated, it should be. So these information. Okay, clear? Is it clear? So it's quite important. Like transfer. So what procedure we have to keep? We have to keep pre-transfusion sample for at least 7 days. Okay. Oops. أطول الآن. أفضل. So we have to keep sample for 7 days, a pre-transfusion sample. Why we have to keep it 7 days? What do you think? What do you think? For testing. لا احنا خلاص خلصنا التستنج، هذا بعد الترانسفيوجن ما رميته. So I pre-transfusion sample. Excellent. لو صارت مشكلة. Post transfusion still we need pre-transfusion. In case of what? Excellent, Lulwa. In case of what do you think? In the blood bank, refrigerator, we keep it for 7 days. Because maybe patients suffer from hemolytic transfusion reaction, isn't it? Or complication. Okay, so we have to check hemoglobin level. So if it's 7, it should be 8 if we transfer 1 unit. But what will happen if it's come 8, but next day it return back to 7? We have to do investigation, isn't it? So this is indicator of hemolytic transfusion reaction. We can do that test, isn't it? Okay. We have to batch to do investigation to transfusion. يطلع فيه able compatibility مثلا. So I have to know what's the origin type of this patient. Okay, is it A or O? So how can I do it after transfusion? It will be population. So it will be difficult to know if the patient is A or patient is O. So we have to keep the pre-transfusion. Okay. Let's briefly talk about electronic cross serological cross match. Let's see what's matching. In electronic cross match, there are no cross matching at all. Okay, so there are no serological cross matching. It's just the computer, okay, or the system will tell us which unit we have to transfer for this. So segment, plasma, cross them together. So it's just theory. For example, if the patient is a B, the computer will select a unit بيقول لي طلعي لي رقمها الفلاني. الجميع يقطع. ولا يطلع عندي سيجنال ولا شيء. I don't know what to do. طيب أعرف. طب إذا تحسن علموني.
هو دحين كويس بس مع الشرح يروح، ما أدري ليش.
ما أعرف حتى أنا. طيب المشكلة عشان الوقت قاعد يمشي ولا بيأخركم عليه، فما أعرف. فبنحاول نكمل حتى لو قطع الصوت وترجعون للجزئية المسجلة، يعني ترجعون للجزئية اللي قطع فيها الصوت إن شاء الله يرجع. حيكون يقطع، لا يفترض، لا ما أعرف صراحة. لا مش شغله يطلع عندي واضح.
دكتورة ألمس قبل فترة رجعت أسمع تسجيل كان يقطع، وكان يقطع بالتسجيل، يعني حتى لما رجعت للتسجيل كان صوتك مقطع فيه.
طيب خلاص بنحاول أوقف إذا قطع، وبعدين حتى لو أنتم مضطرين تطلعون على 4 اطلعوا بعدين التسجيل. أوكي. لما يقطع عندي بيطلع عندي الإشارة الحمراء بوقف، بس أتوقع بياخذ وقت أطول من الساعة 4. ف إذا حابين تطلعين على 4 تقدرون تطلعون، وبعدين عاد ترجعون إذا يعني. Let's continue talk about cross matching. So there are no real cross matching. So it will just choose and select and ask me to take this compatibility tab. That's it. So there are no real cross matching. Okay, because this said, can you remember when we said there are two parts? Some people said there are no need, and other people said it's still need. So it's depend on the blood. So some blood bank, we trust our system, we trust our technology. Okay, so there are no need to do cross matching. However, to my knowledge, cross matching they do cross matching, but however in country, just like for example you, they do cross matching. However, so the cross matching, some give me one electronic thing. What do you think? What's the advantage of electronic cross matching? Cost, maybe. Okay, rapid, yes, excellent. Okay, so maybe I will no need to too much of staff. Okay, so I may reduce the number of staff because I need to do the cross. Okay, we would examination. لا ده no ما تبيش على مين؟ على اللي يشتغل. بالنسبة لليونت I will not open it يعني حتى في كل الحالات. So لكن على العاملين ممكن لأنه ما راح يتعامل أصلا. Okay, so it have some advantage. طيب. Oh, excellent. So on the staff, there are no contamination. So I will protect them because they will not working with biological sample. Right. So there are some advantage for electron. However, not any branch can move to electron cross match. It should have certain criteria. Okay. So it should have reliable hospital computer system. So usually we have different system, different software use. So the one should be يعني might be error or something like this. So this is related to the hospital. Also, patient. The patient should have an ABO. There are no. It should be it should be direct and indirect matching together. So there are no descriptions. Must not do electronic cross match. Okay. This is one point. Also, the point answer screening must be negative. So I don't want patient antibody. I don't want patient have unexpected antibody or immunogenic antibody like anti-E, anti-K, or whatever In this case, I must serological cross-matching. So if they have a low antibody, immunogenic antibody like anti-C, anti-E, or whatever, I should or must have cross-matching. Okay, so we can do it for people who, مثلا, for example, people and the antibody screening is new. Okay, and of course, this was with trusted or robust computer system. Okay, طيب patient for antigen will reverse have anti. Do you think I can do electron cross matching حتى لو كان عندي ايش رايكم؟ Excellent, Ashwag. I cannot. Even indirect is not discrepancies. So, like another example, if a patient have is A positive, for example, but with anti JK, can I use electronic cross? Excellent, I cannot.